Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in information? I mean, completely overwhelmed? Well, today we're breaking down a framework that's designed to fix exactly that. It's called the General Theory of Cognitive Triangulation.
I mean, this quote from Albert Tan just nails it, doesn't it? We're living in an age of infinite information but finite attention. Every single day we get hit with this absolute tidal wave of data, opinions, news. It's a lot. So the big question is, how on earth are we supposed to find the actual signal in all of that noise? You know, the old ways of thinking about this, they just aren't cutting it anymore. The traditional models treat knowledge like it's this static brick wall, right? You learn a fact, you add it to the pile, but in a world that's always shifting, that wall can crumble pretty fast. We need something more dynamic. And that's exactly where this new framework comes in. It's a totally different way to think about how we understand things. So what is it really? At its heart, the theory says that true understanding isn't something you have, it's something you do. It's a dynamic equilibrium, a constant balancing act between three key mental forces. So think less about building a wall of facts and more about, say, actively riding a unicycle. It takes constant adjustment. And what's the whole point of all this? The goal is to achieve what the theory calls sustainable intellectual fidelity. Now, I know that sounds super academic, but it's really just a way of saying we want to build an understanding of the world that's durable, that's reliable, and that can adapt without just falling apart. So how do we actually do that? Well, it all comes down to this number, 3. The whole theory is built on 3 core pillars, and the most important word there is balance. This isn't just a checklist of things to do. It's more like the 3 legs of a stool. If one of them is off, the whole thing just tips right over. Okay, check this out. This slide pretty much lays out the entire framework for you. You've got the 3 pillars. Objective fidelity, which we're going to call truth. Then there's expansive inquiry, which is basically curiosity. And finally, heuristic optimization, which is all about finding elegance. And for each one, you can see its focus and the key question it asks. So let's break these down one by one. All right, first up is Pillar 1, truth, or for our purposes, objective fidelity. You can think of this as the absolute bedrock of your understanding. This pillar is what anchors you to reality. It's all about grounding yourself in verifiable evidence, in data, in the fundamental facts of a situation. It's constantly making you ask, okay, but what is actually provably real here? This is your number 1 defense against misinformation. Okay, now for Pillar 2, which is all about curiosity, or expansive inquiry. So if truth is the anchor holding you to reality, curiosity is the engine that actually moves you forward. You see, this is the pillar that keeps you from getting intellectually stuck. It's the engine for growth, pushing you to explore and ask, what else could be true? It's what makes you seek out different viewpoints, challenge your own assumptions, and really explore the edges of what you know. Without this, truth can just harden into dogma. And that brings us to our third and final pillar, which is kind of our intellectual filter. The theory calls it heuristic optimization, but I think it's easier to just think of it as a search for elegance. So this pillar is all about efficiency and clarity. I mean, with a world full of facts and possibilities, you need a way to organize it all, right? This is what pushes you to find the simplest, the most elegant, the most useful model that actually fits the evidence. It's asking, what's the most powerful and effective explanation here? It helps you turn a huge mountain of data into a clear, usable idea. Okay, so we've got the 3 pillars, but the real magic isn't in any single one of them. Nope, it's in the constant balancing act between them. That is the dynamic equilibrium. Let's make this real. Imagine you see a headline that says, "New study proves coffee is bad for you." How do you even begin to process that? Well, you start by anchoring in truth. You ask, what's real here? Who paid for this study? How many people were in it? What did the study actually conclude beyond just the clickbait headline? Then you expand with curiosity. What else could be true? You start looking for other studies, maybe ones that say coffee has benefits. You question the study's limits. And finally, you refine with elegance. Instead of that simple coffee is bad idea, you land on a more useful explanation like, okay, coffee's effect is complex, it depends on the dose, and it varies from person to person. See? That's the cycle in action. And this, right here, is the core idea. Real, lasting understanding isn't a destination you arrive at. It lives in the productive tension between these 3 forces. If you have too much truth without any curiosity, you just become rigid. Too much curiosity without being grounded in reality, that's just fantasy.
And without elegance, well, you just drown in complexity. So, let's circle all the way back to our original problem. How does this framework actually help us turn all that noise into a clear signal? Well, by actively balancing these three pillars, you're basically building a mental toolkit for yourself. It really helps you separate the important stuff from the noise, develop an understanding that can actually adapt and evolve, and ultimately get to that sustainable intellectual fidelity we were talking about. So, as we wrap up, here's a final thought I want to leave you with. Take a second and look at your own thinking. Of these three pillars, your anchor in truth, your engine of curiosity, or your filter for elegance, which one needs the most attention from you right now? The answer to that question might just be your first step toward navigating our crazy world with a whole lot more clarity.